Mm, actually, hold on. I'll be right. Actually, hold on. I'll be right. Hold on. I'll be right back. Okay. Oh my gosh, that sounds so good, Jelly Bean. Now you can't touch. I can't touch the screen anymore once you put a picture down there because it wants to move it. Can't even scroll it through comments or anything. It's very oddly. But this is the 5 year old little girl that we're going to be talking about today. Okay. This one's a tough one. If you've not heard about it, if you've already heard about it, I'm going to go over the facts again because we're coming up on the time that trials are start to happen. And while you can't really do much with a 9 and 10-year-old, I think it ties into the Jesse Mack Butler case because we have to talk about standards of how juveniles are treated. Is a 9 and 10-year-old's vision of what is right and wrong the same as a 17-year-old's? I would say no. But 9 and 10-year-olds do know the difference between right and wrong. And they do know learned behavior. And we're going to talk about this, and we're going to talk about the Ohio laws that is letting this case go the way that it's going, and in contradiction to the, or the same as, I mean, it depends on how you look at it, because this same law that is protecting the 9 and 10-year-old in Ohio would protect a 17-year-old in Ohio, right? And now we have a 17-year-old in Oklahoma who is running the roads after nearly taking multiple lives. In Cleveland, Ohio, a 10-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy were accused of attempted slaughter. I'm going to do that again because I can't say that in a podcast. If you say the word slaughter in a podcast, they look at you like you've lost your ever-loving mind. Today, we're discussing a deeply upsetting case that has sent shockwaves throughout the community. In Cleveland, Ohio, a 10-year-old girl and a 9-year-old boy have been accused of attempted murder and assault in the brutal attack on a 5-year-old girl. But before we begin, I'm going to give you a trigger warning that this is excessively descriptive information. Listener discretion is advised. In September of 2025, a 5-year-old little girl in Cleveland was allegedly lured away and viciously attacked by a group of children. An almost unimaginable scenario. 2 of the alleged attackers are just 9 and 10. They have since been charged in juvenile court with extremely serious offenses. It's serious. If this were an adult, they would be in jail. These charges include attempted murder, essay, felonious assault, kidnapping, and strangulation. The idea of children who are this young facing such grave, unimaginable charges has raised many questions and emotions in the community. Because the suspects are minors, their names have not been released, and many details are being withheld by authorities due to the sensitive nature of the case. Throughout this episode, I'll refer to them only by their ages 10 and 9, boy and girl. It's a 10-year-old girl and 9-year-old little boy. And the young victim's name obviously is being withheld, though her mother has been very diligent in seeking justice for her daughter. On September the 13th, 2025, the 5-year-old girl at the center of this case was visiting a family member's home in Cleveland. Her mother, Antavia Kennebrew, later recounted that she had dropped her daughter off that Saturday at a relative's house, trusting that she would be safe. At some point, however, the little girl wandered outside. According to the mother and prosecutors, outside the home, a group of older children, multiple children under the age of 10, encountered the 5-year-old and presented themselves as friendly. And they led her away from the area. The children allegedly took her by the hand and led her to a nearby field, some distance away from the house. And what happened next is horrific. In that field, the 5-year-old was brutally beaten and assaulted by those children. Unconfirmed on whether they were related, I heard that they were relatives as well. Obviously, I can't describe the full details of the assault due to the graphic nature, but to give you an idea of the severity, it's been reported that the attackers pulled out chunks of the little girl's hair, inflicted serious injuries all over her body, and they left her unconscious in that field. They then left her there and even went back to playing as if nothing had ever happened, according to the victim's mother. It's hard to fathom such cruelty from children so young. At first, the family member who was watching the 5-year-old noticed that she was missing and frantically began searching. Shockingly, when the family member asked a group of local kids if they'd seen the little girl, those children, who were in fact the attackers, showed no remorse and denied knowing anything. They continued to play, knowing what they had just done, as the victim's mother later described. Eventually, one of the children's parents and the group of kids led the family member to where the injured 5-year-old was. Emergency services were called immediately. EMS found the girl lying in a field, unresponsive and badly hurt. Her mother, Antavia, was alerted and rushed to the scene. When Antavia arrived, she encountered a nightmarish sight. First responders were treating her daughter, who was covered in bruises and blood and in a state that the mother could barely recognize. She said, "What I saw was unbelievable." She said her daughter was, quote, "not my daughter," unquote. The injuries were so severe that she could not recognize her. We can only imagine the horror as parents to look at your child in this state and not have any idea what has happened. The mother described her child's injuries in a statement to local news, quote, "Her hair was scalped from her head. She had bruises and blood all over her body, and her eyes was filled with blood." These graphic details paint a picture of a truly brutal assault. The mother's account also suggests that the attackers had even essayed the child, which is why those other charges were filed later. You guys know what I'm talking about. The mother's account also suggests that the attackers even had essayed the child, but then left her for dead and went back to playing. It's difficult to wrap our heads around this. A sweet, innocent 5-year-old child almost lost her life to the people that she thought she could trust. Immediately, the investigation began. In the immediate aftermath, Jeep and Nana, I wonder the same thing. We have 22,000 likes and 137 souls in this room. You guys know what to do. Hopefully, we'll get more folks in here to listen to this story out of Cleveland. Immediately, the investigation began. The Cleveland Division of Police launched an investigation through their Sex Crimes and Child Abuse Unit. Given the highly unusual circumstance of very young suspects, the police were extremely cautious about releasing information. So they wouldn't release her name because she's only 5. So the best I can tell you is it's the case out of Cleveland, Ohio. Ashley says the mama needs a community around her showing nothing but support. Mm-hmm. On October the 7th, about 3 weeks after the incident, Cleveland police made a public statement acknowledging the case but said they could not share details due to the sensitive nature of the case. They confirmed that multiple children under the age of 10 committed this alleged crime. In other words, the authorities are tight-lipped because of the ages of all involved, including the victim. Behind the scenes, however, investigators were gathering evidence and working with the Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office. Her mother, desperate for justice for her daughter, has also been speaking out on social media. She posted on the Book of Faces about what had happened, expressing her anger and heartbreak. In one post, she wrote, quote, "I need justice for my daughter," unquote, and implored that the children responsible and their parents be held accountable. Her advocacy plus additional public interest was felt to be one of the tools needed to bring justice to this case. But by mid-October, the case had reached a turning point. The county prosecutors announced formal charges on October the 15th, 2025. 2 children, a 9-year-old little boy and a 10-year-old little girl, were officially charged in juvenile court in connection with the brutal assault of this 5-year-old. The charges filed were as serious as you could possibly think. Murder, rape, felonious assault, kidnapping, and strangulation. Essentially, prosecutors alleged that these 2 young suspects tried to kill the 5-year-old and committed horrific physical and sexual violence against her. Thank you, Mama Lick. Thank you, guys. I feel like sometimes it just needs to be said. I mean, why are we being silenced when it comes to being able to say those words, that it happened to us, that it's happened to her? It's important to also note that more than just the 2 children were involved, but the mother only wants to press, not the mother, but the officials. Right now, the only 2 officially charged is that 9 and 10-year-old. I'm not sure if they're related to each other. At this time, only the 9-year-old and the 10-year-old have been charged. I don't know exactly why the other children haven't been charged. It could be due to lack of evidence against them, or possibly because some were even younger, making prosecution way more complicated than it already is, or other factors. Police have not ruled out any additional charges, but they haven't included any additional either. So for now, the focus is on those 2 children. As of late October, we have had 2 very young defendants formally accused in a court of law. As of late October, we have had 2 young defendants formally accused in a court of law and a community looking for answers. People weren't just shocked by the brutality of this crime, but by the ages of those accused. And it's hard to overstate how rare it is to see a 9 and 10-year-old face charges like this. How can children this young do something so terrible? what was going on in their lives before they got to that point. And practically, how would the justice system even handle such young offenders? Throughout October, the little 5-year-old girl was recovering from her injuries. Her family reported that she was physically and mentally and emotionally damaged by this event. She required significant medical care and is now in therapy to help her heal from the trauma. Her mother is quoted as saying, "I want her to be somewhat of a normal 5-year-old again." Unquote. Meanwhile, the legal process is moving forward. Court dates were set for the 2 children charged, as they should be. But because it is a juvenile case, it proceeds in the juvenile justice system rather than adult criminal court. The first major court appearance was last Wednesday. And I'm going to get your guys' opinion about this, of course. So the court appearance was scheduled for both children for November the 9th, 2025. Both the 9-year-old and the 10-year-old was summoned to come in court and appear so that they can be formally arraigned. There was a lot of public interest leading up to this hearing last Wednesday. Everybody thought, are they going to be handcuffed? Are they going to be sent to juvenile jail? So now that we understand the timeline, let's talk about what happened in this case. Exactly. November the 5th was court time. I'm sorry, November the 9th. I'm sorry, today's November the 9th. Let's start over. They were supposed to appear in court last Wednesday, November the 5th, 2025. The little girl, the 9-year-old, the 10-year-old little girl accused of doing this did show up to court. She did. But the 9-year-old didn't. I'm going to describe what happened to you during court. On November the 5th, the 10-year-old girl walked into the courtroom accompanied by a family member. Reportedly, a relative sat right behind her for support. But noticeably not there were the 10-year-old little girl's parents. Observers described her as wearing a face mask and a pink coat with the hood up, a small detail, but it paints a striking image. A little girl in a pink coat with her hood up and a mask on, standing now before the court accused of unthinkable crimes. She remained silent during the proceedings, which is not surprising and to be expected. Her defense attorney spoke on her behalf. Meanwhile, Mom and Dad is nowhere to be found. The 10-year-old little girl's public defender denied charges on her behalf, essentially entering a not guilty plea for all counts. The 10-year-old has denied the allegations. The prosecutor outlined the charges about the girl in court, summarizing the case for the judge. As part of that summary, the prosecutor referenced the events of September the 13th, saying that the 5-year-old victim was found in a field, naked, and clearly the victim of a violent crime. The fact that these details were read aloud in a courtroom with the 10-year-old alleged assailant present in complete explicit detail underscores how serious this is and how unusual. Normally, we'd never hear of a child accused in such a context. Karen says, why did they not show up at all? It's interesting to me that you ask that question, because a lot of people say, well, they might not could have got out of work. The hell they didn't, or they couldn't have. The hell they couldn't have. As something as serious as this, are you saying to me that I am not going to walk in that courtroom holding the hand of my child? And I believe that opens up a bigger question of who are the parents and why don't they want their faces out there? Why would you not show up with your child? As far as I understand, she does, Peanut. We have 33,000 likes and 147 souls in this room. Today's live goal is 10 colorful wings. We have 2 of the 10. If you can throw one, it goes to support my platform and what we do here. It's much appreciated and forever, 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 forever remembered. The presiding juvenile court judge was Kevin Kristen Sweeney. She's an experienced judge in the county's juvenile division. After hearing the prosecutor and reviewing the case, Judge Sweeney had to decide what to do with this 10-year-old defendant who is pending further proceedings. Now, keep in mind, for a charge like attempted murder, if the defendant were an adult, they would almost certainly be held in jail without bail or a very high bail. There would be no question. The judges, this is Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio. So the judge's decision was ultimately to release the 10-year-old back home to mom and dad, the 10-year-old little girl who's wearing the pink coat with an ankle monitor on. Judge Sweeney ordered that the girl be placed on home detention with an electronic ankle monitor. This means that she is not going to a juvenile center at this time. Instead, she must stay at home, and her movements are now tracked 24/7. The judge made it clear that this was not a case where the child could simply go home with no oversight. In fact, Judge Sweeney remarked, and this was quoted by the media, that given the extreme nature of the charges, she, quote, can't imagine circumstances under with which these charges the court could not impose some sort of supervision, unquote. In other words, because the allegations are so serious, there is no way the judge is going to just let her go free. At minimum, some form of court supervision like house arrest, but in my opinion, it's not enough. While it's rare to have a 10-year-old in the juvenile jail system, I feel like the crime is so violent in nature that that is probably the only place that she needs to be. Because ankle monitor or not, other children in the area aren't safe. And her parents didn't show up with her. So Lord knows if she's supervised at all. Judge Sweeney also ordered that the 10-year-old undergo a competency evaluation. This is a crucial step in a case like this. Competency evaluations means a psychological assessment of whether the child understands the proceedings and can meaningfully participate in her defense. In legal terms, a defendant must be competent to stand trial. They need to comprehend the charges and be able to work with their attorney. With a child as young as 10, competency is a real concern. The judge expressed, quote, significant concerns about whether the young defendant truly understands all of the charges against her. A 10-year-old might not grasp concepts like criminal responsibility or legal procedure. So, court-appointed experts will mentally and developmentally be able to be adjudicated at the time. Ashley, I agree. So now we're in a position where we have a child, too, that's attacked this beautiful little angel. Look at her, how beautiful, with her backpack. Over here, right here, you see a child that is innocent and as beautiful as the earth declares her to be. She is a child, loving life as they should at that age. And now look at her. They changed her for forever. Judge Sweeney scheduled a competency hearing for January 2026. At that hearing, they will review the evaluation results and decide if the case can move forward or if the child needs some treatment or time before proceedings can continue. Because keep in mind, they could call on the 5-year-old to testify in their way. Competency is a threshold issue. So if she's found not competent, the case could be paused and focus would shift to treatment for the 10-year-old aimed at helping her become competent. They sure did KO two of them, a 9 and 10-year-old. So now I want to shift my focus on the 9-year-old little boy who did not show up for court. He didn't show up. His parents said that they had car trouble. Call a Uber. As I mentioned, he did not appear in court on November the 5th as scheduled. His family informed the court that morning that he couldn't make it due to car troubles. Whether that's true or not, like I said, call an Uber, call a friend, call a cab. The judge issued a stern order. The 9-year-old must appear in court within 1 week, essentially giving a 1-week grace period to reschedule his arraignment, or else the court would issue an arrest warrant for him. Disney, I agree. So let's think about the contradiction here with the judge. She says, if you don't show up, I'm going to have you arrested. Yet, the 10-year-old little girl didn't get arrested at all. So now, if they arrest the 9-year-old, would he then go to juvenile court, but not the 10-year-old? Following that November the 5th hearing, the 9-year-old's arraignment was rescheduled for the following week. So it's sometime next week. Hold on a second. My husband is putting up a TV or a TV mount in the living room, and I'm like, I can't hear myself think right now. Yes, it happened in Cleveland, Ohio. Where were the parents? Good question. Where were the parents in court? They weren't watching him when he was playing outside, and they weren't watching him when he went to court because he didn't even show up, and the girl's parents didn't show up either. So let's move on, because here's an interesting detail. Media reports noted that the 10-year-old girl's parents did not attend her court hearing on November the 5th. Only another family member was there with her. It's unclear why her parents weren't present. There could be many reasons, and we won't speculate too much, but it is unusual since typically a parent or guardian is required to be with a minor in court. The judge the judge might have had allowed a different relative, right, if the parents couldn't be there. A relative showed up with the little girl after all, or somebody. Peanut, I believe the parents are the reason the children have the behavior in the first place. That's what I believe. During the 10-year-old's appearance, the victim's mother, Antavia Kennebrew, was also present in the courtroom. Understandably, she was very emotional, seeking justice for her child. She was given a chance to speak, and she delivered a powerful statement. She told the judge this type of behavior doesn't deserve grace, that the children who did this knew what they were doing and still chose to do it. Quote, they knew what they were doing and they were okay with that. They even played after, not caring about my baby. Remember that, unquote. Those words are chilling. How? So you have to ask what is going on then in the mind of the children to think that going on and continue to play after such a brutal attack would be normal behavior. Miss Kennebrew basically pleading with the court not to go easy on the children. Quote, this type of behavior doesn't deserve grace, and I agree with that. I believe that having the 10-year-old home on an ankle monitor is not enough right now. One can only imagine how hard it was for her to be in the courtroom, seeing a 10-year-old in a pink coat, a child not much older than her own, accused of such horrific acts against her own daughter that it could have taken her daughter's life. The judge did acknowledge the mother's statement, but at the same time, the judge has allowed the juvenile justice procedures to steer the child home with her guardian or her parents. So she's at home on an ankle monitor. The little boy has no ankle monitor and is expected in court sometime next week. It's also worth noting that in Ohio's justice system, the goal is different than in adult court. Juvenile proceedings focus more on rehabilitation rather than punishment. The maximum consequence, generally, if a child is found responsible for such crimes in juvenile court, is placement in a juvenile facility until they reach 21 years of age. They cannot be sent to an adult prison given their ages, and they cannot be tried as adults either. Ohio does not allow children as young as 9 or 10 to be transferred to adult court. So everything will remain in the juvenile justice framework. Now, I want to talk about the psychological standpoint of what these children have done. At 9 or 10, kids usually know right from wrong. They know that you don't hurt people. But where things get a little foggy is understanding consequences. At that age, the brain part that handles impulse control and thinking ahead is still under construction. So a kid might grasp, this is bad, but truly not grasp how bad or that what they're doing can seriously injure another. But my question is, when the children looked down and they saw this beautiful little girl bleeding out, her hair scalped from her head, did they understand at that point what they had done? What's going on at home? A lot of kids who do extreme harm have seen extreme harm. I'm going to say it again. Kids who do extreme harm, usually have seen extreme harm. So, what is going on at home? Do you think that prosecutors will leave it like it is and not extend any kind of investigation into the parents? We have peer dynamics. If one does it, I've got to do it. At that age, kids can learn empathy. They start learning empathy really at the age of 3 to 4. So if there is no caring adult that's building the empathy muscle, the empathy building blocks, then whether they are 5 years old or 10 years old, they don't have the empathy feelings. So I think the question is, could it go to court? In juvenile court, it's a bench trial, no jury. So the judge hears evidence. Sometimes they are admissions or agreements aimed at a treatment plan rather than long fights. If a judge does find the allegations true, the deposition, think sentencing for juveniles, looks at risk, home environment, mental health, and community safety. The difference between juvie and adult is, in juvenile, they flourish learning and education. But for a 5-year-old, thank you, Carol, for the wings. Thank you so much, ma'am. I appreciate you. But, for a 5-year-old, job one is safety and stability. She's going to have nightmares, anxiety, clinginess, some steps backwards, trauma processing. And for her family, there's grief and anger and a lot of what ifs. Parents often wrestle with guilt even when they did nothing wrong. They need support too. Counseling, community help, time off work, practical aid. And all of those things is glorious. But I'm not convinced that the parents didn't do anything wrong. I think in a violent situation like this, the parents of both children need to be investigated for illegal activities. But what about prevention? What can we actually do? Well, we can supervise kids more closely, teach and model empathy early, praise kindness like it's a skill, watch for red flags, cruelty to others, escalated aggression, fascination with harm. Act early with therapy, mentoring, structure. Create communities where kids have a safe place to be, after school programs, sports, coaches. It really does take a village. Abuse to animals, that's right. You guys are right. Kids aren't born evil. Something or a lot of somethings punishes them. They do. Something or a lot of somethings pushes them toward harm. If we want fewer stories like this, we have to go to upstream and fix all of the things. As far as justice for this baby, I believe the 9 and 10-year-old need to be sent to juvenile court until they are 21 years of age, because they will be safer in juvenile court. They'll get the rehab that they need. They'll get the education that they deserve. But at the same time, they're being held responsible for what they have done. But the bottom line question is, will this Cleveland, Ohio baby get justice? And do you think ankle monitors is what we call justice in this country at this time, even when children are concerned? It's a lot. But I feel that obviously the 9-year-old little boy can't drive. It's going to be his parents' responsibility to take him to court. And a car that doesn't work is not an excuse. It's not. There's buses. They're hiding something. I feel like the parents of both of these children are hiding something. I believe this is just the beginning of this multi-layered investigation. I found it funny, Disney, that their car worked great this whole, well, I'm not saying, I don't know if it worked great this whole time, but even if it didn't, that would have given them more time to notify the court, because they didn't notify the court to the day of. So it's almost like they got in and turned on the car and the car wouldn't start. On the day of court, you see why it's hard to believe. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Multiple red flags. Multiple. You're right. multiple. That is true. Ohio, that is the only thing they can do, ankle monitor. So, my question, and I was going to look this up because I don't know, what is the earliest age of anybody in juvenile jail in the state of Ohio? Let's look. The youngest age a person that can be sent to juvenile jail, this is according to the Ohio Department of Youth Service Facility, is 10 years old. Though this is for crimes where a 10 to 13-year-old is adjudicated a delinquent and committed for felony offenses, the minimum age a juvenile court can have jurisdiction is age of 10. But you can be transferred to adult court at the age of 14. So, here's my point. You can only go to juvenile court between the ages of what? She is 10 years old. She's 10. That's the rules. Because when you're 14, they can send you over to adult court. They don't have to, but they have the right to. So the 9-year-old little boy, here's what I would do as a judge. If I were the judge, which means nothing ever since I have no judicial experience whatsoever, totally not qualified. But if I were the judge, I would sentence the little boy to an ankle monitor at home until he turns age 10. And then I would have him transferred to the juvenile jail until age of 21. Same with this little girl. Because of the violence, she should go right away. She's 10. Because of the nature and level of this. Of course, she has pled not guilty. Now remember, no jury, so the judge has to decide, right? She has to make the decisions, which is trials away. Like we got to get through the evidence. The 10-year-old pled not guilty, but still due to the violent nature, I don't think she's safe at home either. Even her personal self. Yes, Disney, yes. Okay, yes, good point. I would remove them from the home because as is CPS standing there going, you know what? Just send them back. I'm sure they're fine where they're at. Wouldn't they say, we need to get these kids out of this house and figure out what in the hell's going on? So now is CPS not involved? They have to be. Maybe that's why the 10-year-old's parents didn't show up today, because they've already taken her from them. Maybe the guardian who came with her to court is the foster home guardian or the house guardian where she's at, the temporary guardian in place. Do you see what I mean? Could be a CPS worker. She could have, and they're not going to tell us the information on that because that's going to be right includes a child. Does the order, doesn't it say with parents? I'm I would like to see the order, because if it says with parents, you're exactly right. Then she would be with parents. I'll try to look that up. I'm not sure which one, Christy. I'm not exactly sure. I guess they guessed that she was missing and then they went to look for her. Yeah. All right. I'll be live again Tuesday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We are keeping an eye on this case because they should be due back in court next week. We are keeping an eye on the Melody Buzzard case. Mom remains in jail. Melody's still missing. There is still mystery on the Route 66 gas station as to what happened there and why she was more concerned with kittens than she was her own child. So we have a lot of things to talk about. Yes, and I think that they should, Ashley. Immediately. Thank you for your follow. I'm gonna. I know I have been saying I'm gonna put it on YouTube, but I really will try to put today's show on YouTube so you can go back and watch it. If you are in this room and you do not follow me, please do so. It's free to do. The next time I'm going to be live is Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Not Monday. I'm off on Mondays. On Mondays, we clean the house. Tuesday morning at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I'm doing videos along the way and keeping you updated if anything changes, if something goes down, or if there's something where we need to go live. I'm here. I'm available 24/7. I will. Thank you for being in here. It's been forever since I've got to hang out with you. You're amazing. Yes, send me a message on your case request, and if I have time, I'll take a look. All right. Make sure you guys follow me on every social media platform, everywhere. You guys make my dreams come true right before my eyes, no matter what. But make sure you're following me everywhere. I am on YouTube, Facebook, X, Insta, all the things. I want you to have a very blessed, I love you, Butterfly Angel, blessed and day with your friends and family. And I'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, be kind to one another. Thank you guys for throwing down with me on your Sunday. I appreciate you.